based on the PM's response, Ria, absolutely not. Let's first discuss what President Gustavo Petro tweeted this morning. President Petro said it is extremely important for this country to search for the remains of what he's calling the civilians who died from the U.S. attack on a civilian vessel. Take note of the word civilian. The president made a bold assertion and said the bombing took place in this country's territorial waters, and he's asking if the Kamla Bissessa government gave the U.S. such permission. Now, Bissessa responded a little while ago with some very strong language. The PM said this country will not waste resources to look for those bodies. She said our Coast Guard resources will be utilized for the protection of our borders, not to look for dead drug traffickers. However, she said if any carcasses, not corpses, but carcasses, which is a word usually reserved for dead animals, wash up on our shores, we will recover them. Now, remember, President Petro called that vessel a civilian vessel, but the PM countered and said that was not a civilian vessel. She said the drugs on that boat bring death to people here, destroy families and careers, and fracture society. She says those drugs bring more death and despair than conventional weapons. The Prime Minister said this country is in a war against drugs and trafficking, and there will be consequences. And Bissessa said she'd much prefer seeing drug and gun traffickers blown to pieces than seeing hundreds of our citizens murdered each year because of drug-fueled gang violence.
Now, Akash, we understand that Bissessa also announced the cracking down of illegal immigrants and those who commit crimes. What else can you tell us on that?
Yes, Jesse, the Prime Minister said the TTPS has increased its monitoring of illegal immigrants involved in drug and human trafficking. The Prime Minister said the government is working to upgrade the Cedros Coast Guard facility and has dispatched more vessels to the area. And most importantly, the PM said soon the state will deport about 200 Venezuelans who are in our jails. I would have asked the PM how soon, but I'm still awaiting a response. The Prime Minister added this country's migrant policy is in train, and this will help to reduce illegal immigration and trafficking. However, she said it will not be lenient to those who are here illegally and cannot provide verifiable information on how they earn a living in Trinidad and Tobago.
On that note, Akash, are there any updates on the government's migrant policy?
That's a good question, Ria. A migrant policy was a major campaign promise made by the UNC. Interestingly enough, last month the PM said the policy is still in the works, but will not be one of mass deportations. However, the PM was clear that only applies to law-abiding migrants, meaning if you're here legally and can show proof of that, then you should be fine. Now, I remember her in May saying it won't be a case of the government going around and picking up every migrant and deporting them. However, she has always said criminals will be sent back. I think, Ria, this is a good place to find out the progress of that policy. We'll do that, and we would have reached out to the Venezuelan ambassador a short while ago who acknowledged our questions but said he would get back to us on if he has the clearance to respond.